Today we're going to be taking a look at 75447, the Razor Crest. This set just released on April 26 with 930 pieces and a retail price of $150. And spoiler alert, it's not worth that at all. Regardless though, before I move on any further, I want to point out how good this box art looks. This might be recency bias, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is one of the best looking LEGO Star Wars box arts of all time. First of all, just the Mandalorian box art in general looks really good with the sort of metallic blue color, and then on the side here you're going to have this little picture of some of the minifigures and then the movie logo down at the bottom. But aside from the actual movie theme art, the art for the set itself is just incredible. The way the Razor Crest is kind of flying in the atmosphere with the giant planet below it, it's just a really unique looking box art, and from my knowledge, LEGO has never done one like this before. However, unfortunately, my specific box is damaged thanks to Amazon. I mean, really, I shouldn't be surprised. Amazon is notorious for damaging LEGO boxes, but still this was kind of disappointing because I don't keep all my LEGO boxes. However, this one was one I really did want to keep because it looks so good, and Amazon just kind of had to ruin that for me, but I mean, I guess it is what it is. Compared to the front box art, the back box art is honestly kind of lackluster. I mean, it's not like it really matters, but if you care about box art, the back really isn't much to look at. Opening up the box and digging in though, on the inside you're going to find just 8 numbered bags, along with your instruction manual, and then a very large sticker sheet with 19 separate stickers on it. Taking a look at the minifigures, you only get 5 of them in this set, or I guess kind of 4.5 counting Grogu. But first off, we'll start with the most exciting one that all of you guys want to see, that of course being Zeb. This is the first time LEGO has made this character since 2014, 12 years ago, and for the most part, they blew it out of the water. I unfortunately don't own that 2014 version to compare this one to it. However, it's definitely a significant upgrade. It has dual molded legs and dual molded arms, and to my knowledge, this is the very first LEGO Star Wars figure to ever feature dual molded arms, which is honestly kind of crazy considering the fact that LEGO introduced them around 2014, 12 years ago, literally when the first Zeb came out, and it took them until now to include them on a Star Wars figure. That's just kind of bizarre, but regardless, they still look really good, and honestly, just the whole purple and blue colorway in general is incredible. It's a very unique figure that I know a lot of people are going to want to get their hands on. I'd say the only flaw with it is his head print, specifically his eyes. They are pretty large, and compared to how he looks in The Mandalorian, I do think they could be a little bit smaller maybe, but other than the eyes, the rest of the figure is great, and after 12 years, I think LEGO did really deliver with it. Next up here, we have Colonel Ward, and unlike Zeb, this figure is not very exciting or much to look at. The version of her in the New Republic X-Wing is honestly a lot more interesting, but it's just a very simple figure with a very simple torso print and no leg printing, along with a pretty simple back print and a double-sided face, if you care about that. Here we have the Imperial Remnant Stormtrooper, and it's literally just the modern Family Guy Stormtrooper with the new pauldron piece, and this new pauldron piece has been out for several months at this point, and honestly, I still have mixed feelings about it. For the most part, it definitely looks good, but from some angles, it does look kind of awkward. I mean, it just seems to appear like it sticks out really far when you look at it from some angles, and that's always kind of thrown me off about it. And I mean, the reason they do this is so the arm will have room to move and rotate underneath it, but still, it just at some times can look kind of awkward, to me at least. But other than that, this is literally just the modern Family Guy Stormtrooper, really nothing special, still the helmet we don't like, or I don't like at least. And if you're wondering, this is what his face print looks like underneath. He also comes with an EVA blaster, which looks pretty cool. You can kind of pose him on there in different positions if you want to do that. However, the actual blaster itself is built kind of weirdly. If you look here, the Technic pin at the bottom isn't entirely connected, so it kind of like wiggles back and forth and is very loose, and I just find that kind of annoying because it feels unstable, so yeah, I don't really know what that's about. Regardless though, next up here we have the Mandalorian, and this is the new movie version of him, with the only difference from the previous version being his leg print. As you can see there, it's slightly different and then has the addition of foot printing, but other than the leg print, the figure is exactly the same. It's the same figure we've been seeing for years at this point, but I mean, it still gets the job done. It's highly detailed, it has arm printing, it has a jetpack with printing underneath the jetpack, and he's got a decent face print and helmet. Next up here we have Grogu, and this is his new mold that looks really good. However, he is different from the one that comes in the ATRT because as you can see here, he's wearing his little mudhorn pendant, but other than that small printing detail, it is the exact same figure, which looks really good and is definitely a significant and a much needed upgrade from the original one. Each individual minifigure in this set, aside from the Family Guy Stormtrooper obviously, looks good on its own, with Zeb definitely being the best one. However, as an overall minifigure lineup for $150, this is just not enough. Now obviously the movie isn't out yet, so I haven't seen it, and I don't know what other characters could be included. However, still for $150, 4.5 figures is honestly kind of pathetic, despite them all individually being fairly high quality. But now actually moving on to the build itself, it looks just how I was expecting it to look. I know that's kind of a lazy way to put it, but I mean, I'm not blown away, and I'm not necessarily disappointed either. Maybe it's just because I'm not necessarily necessarily the biggest fan of the Razor Crest in general, but I do have to say it is fairly detailed and I really do like the yellow markings. One complaint I do have with the overall shaping of the build is that I think it should be longer. I mean, if you look here, it's literally almost as wide as it is long, but if you look at pictures of it in Star Wars, it's actually a fairly long vehicle, and the 2020 model along with the UCS set got this shaping right, but this one here doesn't seem to get it right, and I just think that's kind of annoying. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but the shaping and proportions are just a bit off. It should be longer. Now, when it comes to putting its size into perspective, the obvious sets to compare it to, for me at least, are the MTT and the Turbo Tank from last year, both of which are $10 more at $160, and this Razor Crest in terms of size is definitely in the same ballpark as these two other sets. Actually, it's a little bit larger, and again, it's $10 cheaper at $150. Now, don't get me wrong, that in no way means that it's worth $150. It just means that it's slightly less overpriced than these two other overpriced sets, which happen to be some of the most overpriced sets of all time. But still, comparing the three of them is a good way to put its size into perspective. And if I had to put a realistic price tag on it, I'd say it's worth no more than $120. So yeah, $150 is obviously just outrageous, especially considering the minifigure lineup. But now actually diving into the build itself, starting off with the cockpit area, the printing on this cockpit windshield piece is freaking diabolical, dude. It's harder to see it on camera, but the yellow of the printing is so faded compared to the yellow of the pieces. It's honestly pathetic, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, LEGO is notorious for doing a bad job with these printed windscreen pieces, especially with sets like the U-Wing from last year. However, this Razor Crest right here is some of the worst I've ever seen. Again, it's not as noticeable on camera, but in person, the yellow of the windscreen is so faded compared to the yellow of the pieces, it's ridiculous. And of course, in the render of the set on the front box art, the two shades of yellow are exactly the same, but nope, not in person. They are noticeably different. It's crazy. And then on top of the bad windscreen print, the actual cockpit interior space is really lackluster. I mean, it is pretty open and spacious, which is nice, but there's literally nothing in here. There's just one small 1x2 printed tile as a control panel, which is just the default control panel print that LEGO uses on all Star Wars sets. I mean, at the very least, for $150, they could have included a more extensive control panel print inside here, or even just stickers, but no, all you have is this tiny little 1x2 tile. Regardless though, obviously you can fit figures in here. You can fit two figures kind of back to back like this, or if you don't want to do that, you can take out the back figure and put Grogu in here because there's a stud for him, and then you can very easily sit the windscreen piece back on. Aside from the printed windshield piece, the rest of the front area looks really nice, especially these stickers on the front. They really do add a surprising amount of detail that looks great, and then you're also going to have the front cannons, which look really good as well. They have a nice design that makes them look pretty menacing and powerful, so to say. And then right above the cannon, you're going to notice more stickers that are on this triangle-shaped slope piece. And what I want to point out about these stickers specifically is that the color of the gray of the stickers actually relatively matches the color of the gray on the bricks. I mean, it's definitely not perfect. There's still a little bit of a difference between the two shades of grays. However, for the most part, it's a significant improvement. And to put into perspective what I'm talking about here is a sticker from the Separatist MTT that released last year, and as you can see, it doesn't even come close to matching the color of the gray as the actual piece. But on this newer one from the Razor Crest here, you can see they actually took a step in the right direction and improved the color. And I know this is a very small thing, but it's a big issue LEGO has had for many years at this point, and it's pretty refreshing to actually see them go out of their way for once to make it an improvement, because for Star Wars sets at least, it seems like they never do that. Unfortunately though, this doesn't apply to all of the stickers on the set. If you look closely, there are still a few here and there that are pretty discolored compared to the pieces, but for the most part, they're definitely an improvement compared to what we used to get. Still not perfect, but it is evident that LEGO was actually trying to fix them. Now, unlike the front and the sides of the ship, the very backside doesn't really have anything going on, which I mean, I guess is fine, because for the most part, this area is covered up, but still, you know, this set is $150, so I would have liked to see them put a little bit more effort in back here. If you're wondering, here's what the bottom looks like. Not really a whole lot going on, just some circular tile pieces, and then the landing gear. It's not retractable, but like you can kind of rotate it if you want to do that, but still, they work really well. They hold this setup almost perfectly when you have it sitting down. They look really good, they give it a nice aesthetic, and they hold it up at pretty much the perfect height. The top side of the ship looks very good as well. There's loads of detail up here with the yellow stripes running down the sides. I think that looks great. The yellow and the gray complement each other very well. And then of course you're going to have these stud shooters up here, which are implemented almost perfectly. They're very seamless and they're in a great spot, and they just fit right in, and they don't stick out like a sore thumb like they do on some other sets. And then lastly, for the exterior, we have the engines, and these are definitely one of my favorite parts of the build. The design is incredible, especially on the back half here. The actual thruster looks phenomenal. They just have a very clean and minimalistic design, which I think looks great. Same thing goes for the front half here. The intake again is very clean and minimal, but it just looks good. Now when it comes to the interior of the build, there's really not much to look at. In fact, there's actually nothing to look at. that. To access it, you can fold down all of the side panels, and then you can also fold down the back one too. And on the inside, there's literally nothing. I mean, I guess there's some 2 clips on the wall to hold some blasters, but for $150, again, this is quite frankly kind of pathetic. Obviously, you can fit a few figures in here, but for the most part, the actual storage or whole area, I guess, itself is nothing special. However, on the front side here, directly under the cockpit, there is kind of something interesting to look at. You can actually fold both of the cannons down to reveal what I assume is supposed to be an engine or some type of power generator for the ship maybe. I have a feeling this exact area is going to be shown in the movie, or maybe it was shown in the show and I forgot, but still it does look pretty cool, and it's a nice detail and actually something to look at, especially compared to the other part of the interior that I just showed. But then that is actually everything there is to see with this Razor Crest. Again, like I said towards the beginning, I'm not necessarily blown away or very impressed, but I'm not disappointed either. I mean, at first glance, this set definitely is pretty good looking. It's got a sought after figure, that of course being Zeb. The ship itself is fairly detailed on the outside due to the stickers and also due to the engines, but the problem is that when you actually dig into this set and you pick it apart, there are a concerning amount of underlying issues, like obviously the bad windscreen print, the overall shaping not being accurate, again it should be longer, things like the very puny interior of both the cockpit and the whole area, the number of minifigures not being enough for the price you're paying, and then of course the price itself. $150 is in my opinion about $30 overpriced. I wouldn't pay more than $120 for this if I were you. So again, there's just a concerning amount of cons with it, genuinely, but there are still some pros too. I'm not forgetting about them. So if I had to rate this set out of 10, I think I'm feeling a pretty generous 6.5. But of course, that's just my rating, so let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now.